Good morning. Happy Monday to everybody. This is Gimpy's History Corner, named for my grandson's name for me. Here we are at a Indianapolis Indians game this summer. Indians got clobbered that day, as I remember, but it was fun being out there with the grandkids in a nice ballpark downtown Indianapolis on a sunny day. Okay, so Abraham Lincoln is elected president. Doesn't have much experience, obviously. Has served one term, short term in the U.S. House of Representatives, but that's it. But now he's president of the United States. What's he going to do? Well, he has lots of advisors, obviously. And the Republican Party, this is their first presidency. Prior to this, they were Whigs and anti-slavery Democrats and so forth. And this is their first time in the White House. So maybe some mistakes will get made. We'll see. He chooses as his vice president Hannibal Hamlin from Maine. He was a senator from Maine, which gave the ticket some diversity for Lincoln, who was from Illinois. He had one from Illinois, one from Maine. Hamlin had left the Democratic Party over the Kansas-Nebraska Act, so he attracted a lot of Democratic voters. Been a lot of attention given to Lincoln's selection of cabinet members. Been a famous book written about it called Team of Rivals. He chose William Seward as his Secretary of State. Seward was one of his big rivals for the Republican nomination. And he was a senator from New York State. Salmon P. Chase was chosen as Secretary of Treasury. He was from Ohio. And he represented the abolitionist wing of the Republican Party. He was a radical Republican who wanted to abolish slavery everywhere. He had an important job because civil wars obviously are very expensive, and he had to figure out ways to pay for all the ways of war. Edward Bates was Attorney General. He was from Missouri. He was a conservative. Hopefully, Lincoln thought he would get support from the border states. Secretary of War was Edwin Stanton, another one from Ohio, former Democrat, and was a fierce Unionist. Preserved the Union at all costs. Secretary of Navy was Gideon Welles. He was from Connecticut, and he was a journalist. What? He was a Democrat to get support again from New England, just like Hannibal Hamlin. And the last one, Postmaster General, is Montgomery Blair, a famous family, prominent family from Maryland, another border state. So the Blairs were very supportive of Lincoln, as you'll see later on. So he has his cabinet, he has his vice president on his way to Washington from Illinois. The secret police, so to speak, heard that there was an assassination attempt from the southern states who were going to try to knock off Lincoln even before he starts his presidency. So they came up with a plan to reroute him through and get him to Washington, D.C. In one case, he dressed like a woman, an old woman. So that was embarrassing, obviously, but necessary to get him there alive. That's how serious it was. I left off the last video talking about the secession of the states. I thought I had it on the last video, but it's actually on this one. This is the order they went in. South Carolina seceded in December 1860. Remember, the election was November 1860. So it's pretty quick. Mississippi followed, then Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Texas, Virginia, Arkansas, North Carolina, and part of Tennessee in June of 1861. Lincoln, of course, argued against the constitutional right of a state to secede. He rejected the compact theory, which said the Constitution was a compact of sovereign states, and those sovereign states had a right to dissolve and start their own country. Lincoln says physically we cannot separate. Secession is unlawful, and it equals anarchy. Congress, in the meantime, worked on several compromises to try to avoid a civil war. One was the Crittenden Compromise, which was reinstate the Missouri Compromise line we talked about before, and prohibit Congress from interfering with slavery in the South. In other words, protect slavery in the South, and reimburse slave owners from non-returned slaves. Lincoln and the Republicans rejected this one, so that did not go anywhere. The Corwin Amendment, Corwin was a representative from Ohio, and it guaranteed Congress would not abolish slavery in the South, passed both houses of Congress, and was sent to the states for ratification. But unfortunately, it did not go fast enough, and the states had already started fighting. There was a Washington Peace Conference, which 21 states attended, which was basically the northern states and some border states. The South did not attend. But they sent word that the South wanted guaranteed expansion of slavery into the territories. And Lincoln and his Republicans said no, they refused to compromise on that issue. So that died a natural death. So it looks like civil war is coming. Lincoln, again, is not a soldier. Doesn't have any experience as a soldier other than the Black Hawk War, which wasn't much. The Union Army is small. Most of the generals who went through West Point are Southerners, so they have all the top generals, or at least most of them. They tried to get Robert E. Lee, but he said, I'm from Virginia. I'll defend Virginia first. So people weren't sure about this Civil War. Some people thought it would be one battle and it'd be over. I know they went to the first battle, people in wagons and ladies in fancy skirts went to watch this event like a football game. Of course, once the firing started, they came rushing back to the north. All right, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the Civil War in this series. The next video will be about Mary Lincoln's episodes or escapades as First Lady. She caused Abe quite a bit of stress in her battles with Congress and with him. And then we'll see what happens after that one. Okay, you guys have a great week. See you next time.